Ano ai ke aloha ya kākou. Thank you for joining us today. Today, Governor Josh Green will be signing legislation that establishes the Maui Wildfire Settlement Trust Fund to provide dedicated funding for those affected by the 2023 Maui wildfires. He will also be signing a bill that will further codify the role of Hawaii's first state fire marshal in nearly 46 years. Facilitated questions and answers with media will follow promptly after remarks conclude. And without further ado, it is my honor to welcome Governor Josh Green.
Aloha. A lot to share today on a couple bills and just major milestones for our state. So first, let me thank the legislature. Thank you, Senator Representative team. Thank you guys for your support, to help Maui recover, to help our state recover. Extraordinary to do it inside of, really we did the settlement inside of a year. And I'd remind people that today is 23 months to the day since the Maui wildfire occurred. We're 1 month out from the tragedy, and our hearts will always go out to the families who lost a loved one and to that whole community. But we've done things in a time frame that no other state has done, so I'm thankful to you guys. So we're going to be talking about this legislation, but specifically how we responded to the crisis. So let's kind of dive right in, and then we're going to also introduce you to an extraordinary individual, Dory Booth, who's our new state fire marshal. So welcome, Dory. Appreciate you. She's got stories to tell already. She's only been on the job for like 5 minutes, and there's a lot going on. Okay, so we'll dive right in. First slide, please. Okay, so we're talking now about healing and recovery and our commitment to fire safety. That's what this is about today. There'll be two bills that we talk about, but first this chart. I want people to understand exactly what we went through financially after the crisis. So Act 197 establishes the Maui Wildfire Settlement Trust Fund. This is a historic $807.5 million investment from the state. You see it there as $872.5 million because money had already been appropriated previously. This was a part of our global settlement. Our settlement to help people recover more quickly. In most cases, a settlement like this either never happens or it happens 5 or 10 years later. We decided we wanted to move forward as a state, and so we brought everyone together, and that meant the entire community on Maui that had suffered the tragedy and all of the individuals that had some role in the recovery and the fire. So that meant the state, the county. It also meant the telecom folks that helped us settle this case. HECO helped us settle this case. You can see there, Kamehameha Schools was also listed. So everyone decided to come together. We approached this like a family. That's why the first thing we did was the One Ohana Fund. If you recall, that was $175 million to make sure that those who lost a loved one could get settlement dollars immediately. Some people took us up on that. Others waited till the settlement got finalized through the legislature. But that's what we did. And we wanted to provide closure for people. And here we are 23 months later, and I'm signing this bill because the legislature trusted that that was the right thing to do, to help us heal so that the next generation can come back into their homes, build their homes again. That's what this $4 billion settlement will allow people to do. It is a larger disaster than just the $4 billion, as you know, but monies came from insurance, which we're grateful for. Monies came from the federal government, which we're also grateful for. This is one piece of it. So here's the settlement detail, and you can use this as you feel appropriate. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what does this actually do? This actually brings the money to the community. The attorneys for the individuals that lost their homes or loved ones will determine ultimately how much of these $4 billion go to each individual and to businesses. We worked very closely with our Attorney General's office. We worked very closely with outside counsel to do all that we could to, number one, get these dollars there and to prevent bankruptcy on the part of the county, prevent bankruptcy on the part of the energy company that still provides service to all of us, especially on Maui. So that's what that settlement's about. It was historically quick And it also saves us the process of everyone having to go to the courts for 5, 6, 7 years. We have a lot of attorneys that were helping us in the legislature, and they recognized that was also important because time is important to people as they heal. So finalizing these claims swiftly will allow affected residents to begin to rebuild their lives. And that's why I'm so grateful. But we also, in addition to these funds, had to do other things. We had to make sure that going forward, things were going to be safer. And that's where we're going to come, I think, to the next slide. Okay, go there. Okay, so we have to strengthen our response system because the heroic work that happened at the level of the firefighters and the police really can be limited by how much resource is in the community and how much coordination we can have going forward. Now, I don't know if people are aware, but we haven't had a fire marshal, 46 years? It's older than Makana, okay, by a lot. And so that is a long time to not have that extra support for our fire chiefs and for the firefighters on the ground. And I have to say, I'm greatly appreciative of the legislature strengthening the duties of the state fire marshal. They appropriated $2.2 million, which is enormously helpful. It fulfills our commitments that are set out in Phase 3 of the report that the Attorney General's team did, establishing not just the fire marshal, but also clarifying what their duties will be, how they interact with all of our leaders in the firefighting discipline, and also how they're going to be selected. So I think it's a very good thing that we now have a fire marshal. And I will tell you, even this week, where we've had several fires that we've been wrestling with over on the west side, again on Maui, Dory's been in the mix right there, hearing from state legislators, hearing from me, hearing from the fire chiefs, giving us extra information, helping guide us in our response to the fires here in the moment. A small story, she helped into our text chain plant the pictures and the feeds so that we could all see the fire ourselves, where it was, which part of the mountain it was in. I mean, this is something that I haven't had the opportunity to do because we don't want to get in the way of the fire captains and chiefs and as they're doing their duties. But having this additional support really meant a lot, and it was helpful to make decisions. I'll tell you also, I don't know if we were going to save this for later, but her advice and then what we experienced just this past week and the extra advocacy led me to agree to deploy our National Guard on call now to start dumping water for the next 7 days to do some additional suppression. And we did that because of her advice and because of our Adjutant General's advice. So we have really taken kind of an evolutionary step in our ability to not just fight fires, but to prepare for the future. And then the last thing I'll say, though it's not a part of these bills, is I want to frame this as a kind of a larger purpose to deal with crises and disasters. The legislature did another thing which will help support all of these projects, and that was, once again, pass the climate impact fee. By doing that, now we will see these revenues come from travelers to the tune of 0.75%, as you've all heard on the TAT. That will create $100 million per year, which we can be guided by the fire marshal and the chiefs in this space of safety and prevention and in the environmental buckets to protect ourselves against the impacts of climate change. We are seeing it play out in tragic ways on the mainland. We just saw the floods that occurred in Texas, and our hearts are broken for that over 100 families that have lost a loved one. We had already experienced that in Maui. So these bills are pieces of the puzzle that has now really come together. The settlement, the fire marshal, the climate impact fee. As you can see, this was all a part of the full response so that Hawaii can not just be the safest place, but can also handle what our responsibilities are. Yesterday, we signed the bill to protect our insurance for condominiums and some capacity to insure single-family homes. So these last 2 years have been not just recovery on the ground, which you've seen, day over day, week over week, and month over month, but also setting forward the future so Hawaii can be safe and can prosper. And with that, I will pause because I'm sure there'll be questions, but I think you'll have a great opportunity as you meet Fire Marshal and our legislative leaders to get more details about where we are today. Thank you.
Mahalo, Governor. Next, I'd like to introduce Senator Brandon Elefante, Chair of Senate Committee on Public Safety and Military Affairs.
Thank you, Makana. Thank you, Governor Green, for your leadership on this important bill. I'm going to speak on House Bill 1064. So I want to thank you, Governor Green, and to your policy team of Will, Dan, and Arlena for their dedicated work and commitment to really get this done. Many thanks to AG Ann Lopez. We also have First Deputy AG Matt Devanch. Thank you so much for your hard work as well. And Deputy Attorney Generals Takei and Yamashiro, who were very instrumental in helping us craft this legislation. Department of Law Enforcement, Director Mike Lambert and Brandon Atsuka, the Hawaii Fireworks State Council, Chief Todd and Gary Lum, and to the Neighbor Island County Fire members and chiefs and representatives, thank you for being here today. Our Department of Defense, Department of Land and Natural Resources, Michael Walker from the Department of Land and Natural Resources, as well as the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, because they temporarily housed the Office of the Fire Marshal for a little bit. Our community members, Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, Liz Pickett, and your team of individuals there, our federal, state, and local partners. I say all these people is because this bill is a combination of collective efforts working together to really get this done. As Governor and his team made this a top priority for them, we at the legislature and working with our counterparts made this a priority too, to get this done. We could not do this without your support and assistance. And out of all the bills I worked on this session, this is the most time and effort I spent, was actually on this particular measure being signed today. A special thanks to Senate President Kochi, Senate leadership, House leadership, Senator Wakai for introducing Act 209 from last session, Session Laws 2024, which reestablished the Office of the Fire Marshal. As you heard from Governor earlier, 46 years. It's been a long time since we've had a Fire Marshal office. To Senator Aquino, Senator Dela Cruz, Senator Rhodes, Chair of Public Safety and Military Affairs on the House, Rep. Baladi, Vice Chair Iwamoto, Representative Lamasau, and to my fellow colleagues, Representative Tarnas and Representative Yamashita. They were all pivotal and instrumental with funding and crafting legislation and wording to get this right. So thank you for your due diligence and thoughtfulness to advance this important measure. House Bill 1064 effectuates the recommendations of the Phase 3 forward-looking report by the Fire Safety Research Institute on the 2023 Maui Wildfires, and further clarifies the appointment of the role of State Fire Marshal, establishes the Office of the Fire Marshal in the Department of Law Enforcement, and establishes the Fire Marshal Selection Commission. It requires reports to the legislature. House Bill 1064 is much more than fire breaks and developing plans for wildfire prevention. It's really a call to action, placed in our law books to provide the tools and financial resources to make this office achieve success. We look forward to the steps with Fire Marshal Dory Booth and the team there that will deliver meaningful results to protect the safety and well-being of our communities. Mahalo to you, Governor, and for your leadership and vision for seeing this through and getting this done. Thank you.
Mahalo, Senator Elefante. Now please welcome Representative Della Al-Biladi, Chair of the House Committee on Public Safety.
So the challenge with this is by the time after I speak after these two gentlemen, everything's been said and all the thank yous have been done. So I really don't have much to say except to maybe share some stories about the legislative process. But I do want to add some thanks. I do want to thank both the governor, but also my Senate counterpart, Senator Elefante. This was my first year actually serving in public safety in the management area. So he really helped guide me through this process and the really important subject matter that faces this committee. I also want to thank my vice chair, Kim Koko Iwamoto, and the member of the Public Safety Committee, Representative Rochelle Lamasau, who were very instrumental in getting all of these wildfire initiatives passed. So My task was to also speak on House Bill 1064, which continues to fulfill a promise to the people of Lahaina and really all of the people of Hawaii so that we don't have another disaster as we had in Lahaina. It represents a significant investment in the future safety, security, and resilience of our communities. We know that with increasing harsher weather and climate conditions, wildfires and risk of wildfires are very real threats. We only need to look at this past weekend's wildfires on the leeward coast of Oahu, and even to the Punch Bowl fire that happened 20 days after the ending of this year's legislative session to be reminded of these threats. We know that we have to pool our resources, coordinate all of our counties and state agencies, and even our communities in order to protect lives. So, the kind of quirky story about House Bill 1064, you often hear it said by legislators, we are building the plane even as we were flying it. And in this instance, that was truly the case because we had to manage what was already a robust selection process that has given us State Fire Marshal Dory Booth today. But we had to craft this legislation to allow that process to happen, to set the office into the Department of Law Enforcement, which wasn't necessarily clear from the very beginning, and then to make sure that it had all the responsibilities, duties, and then funding, the critical funding to make sure that the office could deliver on its promises. And so I did not know that we were going to accomplish this, not to the very end. And one last final shout out to Mr. Will Kane, who really helped to make sure that we were doing the right thing by all the state agencies involved. Director of Law Enforcement, thank you for being here, as well as all the county agencies, the county fire departments, and the State Fire Council. So really this was a braiding of resources, talent, and mana'o from the different agencies and people. So I really want to thank everyone here. This bill fulfills the highest priority item by fully staffing and funding the offices of the State Fire Marshal for 2 fiscal years, which we don't often do. So this is really, really important. This is done so that we can deliver on all of the 140 recommendations from the State Attorney General and the Fire Safety Research Institute's extensive investigation and reporting in the years to come. We won't be able to deliver it in just 1 or 2 years. This is a commitment for, I believe it's going to be decades to be able to fulfill and make sure our communities are safe. So thank you very much.
Mahalo, Representative Baladi. Up next, it's my pleasure to welcome our new State Fire Marshal, Dory Booth.
Good afternoon, everyone. Governor Green, thank you for all of the work that you've done as well on the bill, as Senator Elefante, Representative Baladi, and honestly, the gentleman here on the left from the State Fire Council. Without them working on the job descriptions as well as the interview process, I wouldn't be standing here today either. So thank you guys. And then from the time that I had my interview to the offer, it's been, as Representative Vladi said, we're flying the plane as we're putting it together and watching the bill shift and change up until my start date. And it's still a lot. As Governor alluded to, this week's been really busy. I've hit the ground running. Spent probably a good 12 to 14 hours out yesterday with Honolulu Fire, looking at the fire in Maui, and as they progress throughout the day. So Hawaii is busy. These guys, I'm glad that I get to take some of the weight off of the chief's shoulders that they've been bearing as a collective State Fire Marshal's role of being a hub to all of the different resources across the state. Our government partners, our nonprofits, our individual businesses, as well as our Fed partners. And I see myself really as the collaborator or the hub for that to help bring the amazing work that's already going on together and telling each other stories and how those stories interlap to be able to use resources, as Governor Green indicated, with the National Guard or other partners, and using the resources that were already here, but we're lacking manpower to be able to use regularly. So that being said, I look forward to serving, and I don't see the hit the ground running slowing down. I'm probably going to be running at a full sprint downhill on a treadmill, continuing to kick me down that direction. But it's awesome. I'm learning a lot. Everybody in Hawaii has been incredibly welcoming, and helping me learn your story as an outsider coming in. So thank you to the public, the governor, his staff, the legislature, State Fire Council, and everybody and Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, HWMO, helping me guide that way, and I look forward to working with all of our partners. Thank you.
Mahalo, Dory. At this time, I will facilitate questions from the media, and I'll welcome the governor back up to the podium, and we will begin with Paul Drews, KITV4.
Thank you very much. Governor, you mentioned the money from the green fees would go toward fire prevention. Now, there's a number of bills that also fund fire prevention, fire efforts. So I'm just trying to get an idea. I wasn't aware that the green fee was going to be going toward fire prevention or efforts or fire suppression efforts, whatever it may be. So can you just talk about where that money would go from the green fee?
Sure. This is this is an important bill. Ledge passed and gave us direction, 3 buckets basically, and one of those buckets deals specifically with the impacts of climate change and how it can result in disasters. And I would say it's in that bucket, the disaster space, where we may very well need to, for example, it was described doing fire breaks. That is a relevant space for the monies. We are, though, embarking on a full of state period of input, where we're going to be getting input from people that deal with crises and fires and people who have been environmentalists and dealing with just the changes to our environment. There are all of these different necessities, I guess I would say, that we have to address. So the final piece being sustainable tourism and how that manifests, making sure that we're not damaging, our environment, that beaches aren't fully eroded, that people are trapped in areas where they can't escape if there's too many individuals at one location. There's a lot of work to do. These are monies that were hard to come by over the many years because, as I think everyone is aware, legislators, we all have to kind of focus usually on the immediate, what's right in front of us. But the impact of climate change and these problems are actually much, vaster than just a 2-year cycle. And so having these monies to either directly go to hazard mitigation in this one case, or even to bond monies going forward. This is a decision the group will have to make, whether it's prudent to take some of those monies and bond larger projects. That's another option. I would remind people, for every $4.5 million that comes in to the green fee, you could bond up to $100 million of projects. Again, it'll be the prerogative of the legislative leaders that come to us with these ideas and the many organizations that will want to deploy the money. It's a game changer for us because trying to get appropriations in the moment is difficult if there's a new fire or a new crisis. And this is going to open up just a lot of additional opportunities for a fire marshal, for a fire chief, or frankly for an environmental NGO that has wanted to do something for a long time that didn't have the monies. I'll give you another example. We may very well be doing planting of native species of plants as part of this program because it's very sound environmental policy, and it will simultaneously decrease risk where we've had very dry areas where we've lost our native plants that would have prevented fires in the past. So of all the bills that passed this year, I personally feel that was the most transformative, the green fee, because it will enable all of these good professionals to do so much more.
Mahalo, Governor, quick follow-up.
Yeah, sorry. I just because there's funding for fire prevention from other bills, you talked about, say, planting or environmental aspects of the green fee that was kind of the intent that many people thought it was for.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering if those are going to suffer. Not that fire prevention is a bad thing, but there's other funding for fire prevention. So there's not a set as far as how much money for the green fee is going to go to various, projects.
Well, let me be a little more clear. So first of all, it doesn't kick in until January 1, 2026 anyway. So the appropriations in this year's budget were just the thoughtful appropriations that we needed in the moment for, say, the fire marshal, okay? So projects that are right now necessary are being funded by the current legislative 2-year biennium budget. That's the first piece. Then the way the bill spells things out, it's broken into thirds, and we will be awaiting those resources. So it's a very important thing for people to understand that that fee that will start from those who travel to Hawaii or stay at hotels or short-term rentals, that will start accruing in January. It's also including cruise ships who were not paying the TAT tax historically in the same way. So what that means is we will bring a plan to the legislature before they start the session in January at the recommendation of all the parties that come to the table. And we're going to be quite specific for those discussions. We want people to give us specific proposals so that we can present them to the ledge for approval. It's very important, since they will see the big picture on public safety, on how our climate's being affected by loss of roads and so on. They'll be able to kind of integrate all of their thoughts. But these new monies are not meant to displace other dollars that we've had at DLNR, DOT. These are new monies meant to take us into the future, to prevent fires, to protect our environment from climate impact, to make sure that our physical, our physical tourism experience is continuously upgraded so that we have people come but safely.
Mahalo, Governor. Next question, Joe Kuramoto, KHON2.
Thank you. Governor, can you explain how the wildfire settlement will be distributed and how soon will people be seeing their money?
Yes, for sure. So we agreed to the settlement in principle before the 1 year mark, before the 1 year anniversary. That was in previous August, right, or last August. Then it had to go through a process of whether or not it was acceptable to the courts. It went quickly to the Supreme Court, and they validated it. They said this is an okay way to go. There were some holdouts in the moment, which was a conversation, I should just describe it as, between how insurance pays claims and whether or not those claims can be taken back from individuals. That's called subrogation. The courts upheld our position of the $4 billion settlement, and so it goes forward. Now, some people are already receiving their resources, just so you know. There are individuals that lost a loved one that have already received the $1.5 million initial payout. Their attorneys, everyone will be represented. Their attorneys will now make a determination. There'll be several different categories of payouts, whether a person had loss of life that they were connected to in their family, whether there was an injury, whether their house was lost, whether their house was damaged, whether or not their business was damaged or lost. And that will be all within the total of the $4 billion that has been allowed. Now, people are still, in some cases, going to get more insurance claims coming to them. The last I checked, I think the insurance industry had paid out something in the order of $2 to $2.5 billion, and they're anticipating paying out a little over $3 billion. Also, there's $1.6 billion still coming from the federal government. The feds have agreed to the mayor's plan, and these are dollars that come from HUD and FEMA. And so that $1.6 billion, which was appropriated by the federal government, federal legislators, is a go. So you're going to see this $4 billion. You'll see some remaining monies coming from the insurers, and you're going to see the $1.6 billion from the feds. All of that money will be going to the people and the recovery on Maui. And one of the complicated parts about getting the settlement was getting everyone to make sure they worked together so that there wouldn't be any counter lawsuits between parties. That happens almost always, and that was my job, to work it out with our friends, like I said, as an Ohana, because if anybody didn't agree to participate, basically the whole thing falls apart. And then the tragedy is those who lost so much might wait 5 or 10 years before any kind of settlement could occur or courts could rule, and then there are appeals and more appeals. That's why we felt very strongly, settle now, get people their resources much faster than they did in other states, and move on with our lives.
Mahalo, Governor. Up next, Darryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you. You know, the settlement is a fixed amount that's going to be distributed to a lot of people. That discussion is going on right now. One of the things that's happening is that they are inviting people, anyone on Maui, any business on Maui that lost business because of tourism falling in Maui after the fire. When it comes to prioritizing who gets the money, are you comfortable with a business, say, in Kihei, who lost some tourism money, getting money that might come out of the pocket of someone who's actually lost their home or a loved one?
Thank you. My priority is and will always be to prioritize first those who lost a loved one, and then people who were displaced from their homes. 561 of the homes that were destroyed were owner-occupier families. That means they actually owned their house and were living in it. Then there were 1,853 houses that were destroyed that were being rented. Again, people, that was disruptive to their lives, but they weren't the families that had lived there for generations. And I can just be one person giving advice, but I've wanted to be very clear that my priority would be in that order: the people who lost a loved one, then who lost their home. This is the work, though, of course, of the judge and the attorneys. I am happily not an attorney. Sorry, Della. Attorneys are incredibly important in our society, and more so than usual when there's a disaster like this. So I just tease. But that's what happens. First, I was able to make some executive decisions with these partners, like I said, with KS, with HECO, with Telecom, with the county, and then the courts and their lawyers, the lawyers for the individuals will have to act. The reason that we did the One Ohana Fund first and expedited those monies in the first year, and it was really extraordinary that the legislature did that appropriation of $75 million up front, which was matched up to $175 million with the other parties, was that set the tone for the recovery. So if you want to know what I prioritized, I literally prioritized that, and we intentionally got that done first. Had Judge Ibarra, if you remember, working that challenge with the families so that everyone knew that was first, and it bound us together. It bound us together as partners in the future recovery. That was part of my strategy from the beginning. Once that was in place, it was very hard for me to imagine people wouldn't want to take the next phase of the recovery together. And amazingly, it worked out that way. So I think that's how people should approach these things in smaller communities, by putting those who lost a loved one first. I think we're going to see that likely be kind of a roadmap for California and their wildfires in Los Angeles. And I would not even be surprised if that's how Texas ends up approaching their tragedy.
Mahalo, Governor. Moving on to this side, we have up next Talia with Honolulu Star Advertiser.
Hi there. I'm curious. So you said some families are already starting to see these funds come through, or their portion of the settlement. Do you have any estimate on how long this will take to get everybody to see their portion, or any kind of idea of, when other families who aren't seeing it right now can expect to in the future?
Well, they're in the moment. Thank you for that. So we expect the individuals who lost loved ones to be able to expedite their settlement payments very quickly, because already there's a template for that. People will be able to make an appeal to the court if they feel there was more resource necessary, if they lost more potential from a loved one. It's very hard because every loved one is valued equally to us as human beings, but the courts have to address each family and what their needs are specifically. So those individuals are going now. Homes are being rebuilt, and people have been getting as I mentioned, their insurance settlements, but some people still have a delta on how much money they got, and it in some cases wasn't enough to fully rebuild. And of course, that's where their attorneys are going to appeal for extra resources. We want, to the best of our ability, to see everyone be able to restore their quality of life that they had before. It's a lot more difficult to assess the impact on businesses. Like Dara was saying, there was the immediate loss of business in Lahaina, and then just the sheer force of the disaster rippled out to other people's rentals, to businesses that relied on the travelers. That's going to be much more difficult, probably. But the straightforward parts, I have every confidence in the judge to make these decisions. We've been thinking about this for the last, like we know, it's been 23 months since the day of the fire. After about 3 or 4 months, we were already beginning the process of finding ways to estimate how much money people would need to get their lives back. The housing is being built. If you go over to Maui, you'll see people first who have been living in our transitional houses that we built in Kalaʻiola. We've actually had people giving us our keys back so that they can go move into their house, which has been completed, and we're putting in a new family into the transitional housing. So it's really happening. The overall recovery will take years, but the settlement dollars hopefully will all go out quite quickly because those monies are now in an account from us, from all the other partners to the settlement. That was part of the condition of the settlement, that the monies had to be deposited.
Mahalo, Governor. Final question. Emma, Hawaii Public Radio.
Hi, Governor. So you had said that there's going to be $1.6 billion coming from the federal government. I'm curious, when are you expecting to see that, and is that at risk with FEMA cuts and the H.R. 1 bill?
Thank you very much. It appears to be solid. You know, I've cultivated a positive working relationship with the FEMA team that's under Homeland Security. We are able to compartmentalize our differences, which sometimes exist between our approach to immigration versus our approach to disasters. That's part of my job, to be a peacemaker when I can be. The mayor's done a very good job, Mayor Bisson, to make sure that that money was maintained based on the plan. And the way it works now is his county gets reimbursed as projects, which they have now approved, get put into play. So they front dollars, and they have been assured that the full $1.6 billion will come back to them. I will tell you that that was also part of our agreement internally. A lot of times in different states, the states or the governor will sometimes see the settlement from FEMA and the feds and then take some of that money for other projects. I don't play that way. I mean, this disaster was on Maui. This is where the crisis occurred. Those dollars should go to Maui to help with the many needs, because not all needs will be met. It's not possible, unfortunately, but many needs will be met. And so that full $1.6 billion will come in. Other states have had a lot of difficulty because they end up in a fight between municipalities and the state. I just thought that would be the silliest possible thing. One of the commitments I made to the mayor was that money will all go to you, but I will humbly ask you not to be in any kind of conflict with HECO or with the telecom partners. Let's all agree that we literally are working as a family together. And that, again, helped us, because had we not had that agreement, then there would be suits and countersuits, and that's how the system gets clogged up and people don't recover. That's the history of recoveries. Normally, Hawaii proved that it can do it differently.
Mahalo, Governor. At this time, we're going to commence the formal bill signing. I'd like to invite all state legislators, key stakeholders, community advocates to come up to the half moon for the formal bill signing and subsequent picture taking.
Okay, so this first bill is the House Bill 1001. This is the settlement of claims related to the Maui wildfire crisis. And again, as you heard, this only happens because everyone worked together and the legislature honored what the needs are of the people. So thank you for that. And this goes to symbolically to the Finance and WAM Chair also, but specifically to you, Chair. Thank you.
Camera crews, call it out.
Back in the center. 3, 2, 1. Thanks.
Okay, so thank you for that. And then our other bill, this one, we're going to call this the Dory Booth bill. Really, we're going to call it relating to fire protection, but many thanks to everyone who made this happen. As was stated very eloquently, flying the plane and putting it together at the same time was necessary because here we are in wildfire season. We've already had several wildfires, and it's just fantastic that we're able to do this. Now she can hire her staff, which is very important.
Mahalo, this formally concludes today's bill signing. E malama.